Chapter 2 Trials and Allies. The Path of Silver Light. The mountain path was supposed to take 3 days. Lyra made it in 5, because the silver thread had a cruel sense of humor. It didn't simply lead her up the well-worn trails that shepherds used. No, it wound through ravines filled with brambles that tore at her clothes, across frozen streams that tried to sweep her away, and up cliff faces that required climbing skills she absolutely did not possess. By the end of the first day, Lyra was bruised, exhausted, and seriously questioning whether the gods of the tapestry were testing her or just sadistic. But she kept going, because stopping meant going back, and going back meant watching more innocent people die while she pretended to be ordinary. The threads helped, at least. She learned quickly that she could use them for more than just seeing. She could pull herself up steep inclines by gripping the threads of sturdy trees, could sense danger ahead when predator threads pulsed with hunger, could even find water by following the bright blue strands that sang with liquid life. It was exhausting in a way that had nothing to do with physical exertion. Every time she touched a thread, she felt it, the life connected to it, the emotions, the history. A tree wasn't just a tree. It was centuries of growth, and storms survived, and birds nested, and...
First lesson,
a voice said from behind her.
Don't look too deep, or you'll drown in it.
Lyra spun around, nearly losing her footing on the narrow mountain path. A boy stood there, maybe a year or 2 older than her, with copper skin, dark hair tied back with a leather cord, and eyes that were an unsettling shade of amber, like a wolf's eyes. Most importantly, his thread was unlike anything she'd seen before. It was a deep, rich brown, but it moved, actually writhed and shifted like a living thing, and it was tangled with dozens of other threads in ways that looked almost painful.
Who are you?
Lyra demanded, trying to sound braver than she felt.
How long have you been following me?
Since you left your village,
The boy said casually, settling onto a nearby rock, as if they were having tea instead of a tense encounter on a dangerous mountain path.
Name's Kale. I'm what you might call a guardian, or a spy, or a very concerned party interested in making sure the last untrained weaver in existence doesn't accidentally unravel reality before reaching the temple.
Lyra's hand instinctively went to her own thread, ready to pull it if she needed to move fast.
The gods said the village would be protected. They didn't mention a babysitter.
I don't work for the gods,
Kale said, and there was something sharp in his voice.
I work for the one you're going to meet, Master Aemon. He sent me to make sure you actually arrived in one piece, since the Silver Path has a tendency to kill people who don't know what they're doing.
I'm doing fine on my own.
Sure you are.
Kale gestured at her torn clothes, the scratches covering her arms, the way she was favoring her left ankle.
That's why you're bleeding from a dozen different places and about to walk straight into a windwraith nest.
A what?
Kale pointed ahead, where the path curved around a boulder.
Windwraiths. Spirits of people who died in mountain storms. They're drawn to life threads like moths to flame, and they like to play a game where they tangle you up until you can't move, then watch you freeze to death. Very sporting of them.
Lyra looked carefully at the threads ahead and felt her stomach drop. He was right. There were dozens of strange, pale threads clustered around the bend. Threads that didn't connect to anything solid, that just floated and twisted in patterns that made her dizzy to look at.
How do I get past them?
She asked quietly.
You don't. Not alone.
Kale stood, rolling his shoulders.
Lucky for you, I've got a gift of my own. Watch and learn, Weaver.
He walked forward confidently, and as he approached the cluster of windwraith threads, his own thread, that strange, writhing brown strand, suddenly expanded. It grew thicker, sprouted additional strands, and reached out to the windwraith threads like tentacles. But instead of pulling them or cutting them, Kale's thread simply absorbed them, drew them in and wove them into himself temporarily, holding them steady.
"Come on!"
He called back to Lyra.
"Walk through now, while I've got them distracted."
Lyra hurried forward, and as she passed through the space where the wind wraiths clustered, she felt them, cold, desperate, terribly sad. They'd been people once, lost travelers, merchants caught in avalanches, children who'd wandered too far from home.
"Don't.
Kale warned sharply, seeing her expression.
Don't pity them, and don't try to help them. They're past helping. All you can do is get past them without becoming one of them."
They cleared the dangerous section, and Kale released the windwraith threads. They drifted back to their haunting ground, making sounds like distant screaming wind.
What are you?
Lyra asked as they continued walking.
Your thread. I've never seen anything like it.
Kale's expression darkened.
"I'm what happens when someone's thread gets cut, but they're too stubborn to actually die. The technical term is threadborn. My thread was severed when I was a child. Bandit attack, whole caravan slaughtered. But somehow I survived. My thread just kept going, rewrote itself. Now I can manipulate threads in ways that would take you years to learn. But I can't actually weave new ones. Can't create. Can only tangle and untangle what already exists."
That sounds...
Lonely? Cursed? Yeah, it's all of those things.
Kale walked faster, clearly done with the topic.
But it makes me useful. Master Eamon took me in 10 years ago, trained me. Now I help him with tasks that require someone who can touch threads without being overwhelmed by them. Like escorting traumatized weavers up dangerous mountains. But I'm not traumatized.
Kale snorted.
You watched a death god try to murder a child 4 days ago. You found out you've got powers that got your entire bloodline hunted to extinction. You left behind everything you've ever known to climb a mountain based on the word of 3 cryptic gods. If you're not traumatized, you're definitely in shock.
Lyra wanted to argue, but she couldn't. He was right. She'd been running on pure adrenaline and stubbornness since the moment she'd grabbed her own thread. Now that someone else was here, sharing the burden of survival, she felt the weight of everything starting to crash down on her.
How much further to the temple?
She asked quietly.
2 more days if we're lucky. 3 if we hit complications.
Kale paused, studying the silver thread that stretched ahead of them.
And we're definitely going to hit complications. The path is taking us through the Shattered Valley.
What's the Shattered Valley?
It's where the last great weaver went mad.
Kale said grimly.
300 years ago, a man named Corvus tried to rewrite the tapestry. Thought he could eliminate death, disease, suffering. Create a perfect world. Instead, he tore reality apart in a 10-mile radius. The threads there are all wrong, tangled and broken and screaming. Anyone who enters without protection tends to lose their mind within hours.
And we have to go through it?
The silver path goes through it, which means the gods want you to see it. Want you to understand what happens when a weaver thinks they know better than the pattern itself.
Kale met her eyes.
Consider it a cautionary tale.
They made camp that night in a shallow cave, and Kale proved unexpectedly practical. He built a fire, shared dried meat from his pack, and showed Lyra how to shield her mind from the constant input of thread sense.
Imagine a veil.
He instructed, sitting cross-legged across the fire from her.
Something between you and the threads. You can still see them, but you're not touching them, not feeling every emotion and sensation. It's like looking through glass instead of with your bare hands.
Lyra tried, and after a dozen failed attempts, she finally felt it. A subtle distance between herself and the overwhelming web of existence. The relief was immediate and profound. The constant psychic pressure eased, and for the first time since awakening her gift, she could actually think clearly.
Better? Kale asked.
Gods, yes. Why didn't anyone teach me this before?
Because there was no one to teach you. The weavers kept their knowledge secret, paranoid about others learning their gifts. When the purges came, all that knowledge died with them.
Kale poked at the fire with a stick.
Master Aemon is the last one who remembers the old ways. And well, you'll see. He's not what you'd expect.
What should I expect?
Kale considered this.
You know how normal people think of gods as all-powerful, all-knowing, benevolent beings?
Yes?
Expect the opposite of that, but in the body of a cranky old man who barely tolerates visitors and speaks mostly in riddles and insults.
Despite everything, Lyra laughed. It felt strange, laughing after days of terror and hardship, but it also felt necessary. Human.
Why are you helping me?
She asked.
Really? You said you don't work for the gods. So what do you get out of this?
Kale was quiet for a long moment, staring into the flames. His thread, that strange, severed but surviving strand, pulsed with complicated emotions that Lyra couldn't quite read.
Because I know what it's like to be alone with a gift you don't understand,
he finally said.
I know what it's like to be different in ways that make people fear you. And I know that Master Aemon is probably the only person alive who can teach you to survive what's coming.
What is coming?
I don't know exactly, but the tapestry has been failing for months now. Threads breaking randomly, patterns falling apart. The gods are desperate enough to recruit an untrained weaver, which means things are worse than anyone's admitting.
Kale looked up at her, his amber eyes reflecting firelight.
You're not just learning to control your gift, Lyra. You're learning to save the world. No pressure.
Everyone keeps saying that,
Lyra muttered. They fell into comfortable silence after that, both lost in their own thoughts. Lyra found herself studying Kale's thread, the way it moved, the way it seemed to reach out toward hers and then pull back, as if uncertain whether connection was allowed.
Can I ask you something?
She said eventually.
Sure.
Your thread. It looks like it's in pain.
Kale's expression froze.
That's blunt.
I'm sorry, I can see it, all those tangles and knots, and I wondered.
If there's a way to fix it?
Kale smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes.
I've wondered the same thing for 10 years. Master Aemon says no. Says a thread that's been cut can never truly be whole again, just like a person who's died can never truly come back. I'm the exception that proves the rule. Alive but not really living. Connected but not really part of the pattern.
That's horrible.
It's reality.
Kale stood, stretching.
Get some sleep. Tomorrow we reach the Shattered Valley, and you're going to need all your strength for that.
He moved to the other side of the cave, wrapping himself in his bedroll. But Lyra noticed that even in sleep, his thread stayed partially extended, reaching out, seeking connection, unable to truly rest. She fell asleep thinking about loneliness, and how sometimes the worst prisons are the ones we carry inside ourselves. The Shattered Valley was worse than Lyra had imagined. They crested a ridge at midday and looked down into a landscape that made her eyes hurt to perceive. The valley itself was beautiful, lush with strange vegetation, dotted with crystalline formations that caught the light. But the threads were screaming. They twisted and writhed in impossible configurations, knotting around themselves, breaking and reforming in endless loops. Some were colors she had no names for, shades that shouldn't exist in nature. Others were simply wrong, threads that moved backward, threads that existed in multiple places at once, threads that connected to nothing and everything simultaneously. And beneath it all, she could feel Corvus's presence. The Mad Weaver's final working still echoed through this place, a howl of anguished ambition that had torn reality itself.
Don't stare too long,
Kale warned, gripping her shoulder.
The pattern here is contagious. Look too deep, and you'll start thinking like Corvus did, that you can fix it, that you understand it, that one more adjustment will make everything perfect.
But we have to cross through it?
The silver path goes straight through the center. The god's idea of a graduation exam, probably.
Kale pulled out a length of rope from his pack.
We tie ourselves together. If one of us starts to lose it, the other can pull them back to reality.
They descended into the valley, and Lyra immediately understood why Kale had been so concerned. The threads here didn't just look wrong, they felt wrong. They pulled at her mind, whispering promises of power and knowledge. She could fix this. She could see the pattern Corvus had tried to create. She could finish his work, perfect it, make it right. Ima Nikia Portuchaka. Ima. Just one small adjustment. Just one thread rewoven. Just one.
Lyra!
Kale yanked hard on the rope connecting them.
Veil! Put up your veil!
She gasped, realizing she'd been standing frozen for several minutes. Her hand extended toward a knot of threads that pulsed with malevolent invitation. She slammed her mental veil back in place, cutting off the seductive whispers. Shamta Brumaka.
This place is a trap.
She breathed.
Yes, keep moving. Don't stop. Don't look too closely. Don't listen to what it promises.
They pushed forward, and with every step, Lyra felt Corvus's madness seeping into her thoughts. She could see what he'd tried to do, create a pocket of reality where suffering was impossible, where every thread led to joy and fulfillment. It was beautiful in a terrible way, a paradise that required the complete rewriting of existence itself, and it had failed. Because reality doesn't work that way. You can't eliminate suffering without eliminating growth, can't remove death without removing life's meaning, can't perfect the tapestry without destroying what makes it beautiful. Corvus had learned that too late. And his final scream, his recognition of his own hubris, was trapped here forever, echoing through broken threads. Spara Sara Devares. They were halfway through when they found him. Not his body, that had long since returned to dust, but his thread, his actual, original thread, still knotted in the center of the valley, still trying desperately to reweave the pattern it had broken. It was the saddest thing Lyra had ever seen.
Don't,
Kale warned, but Lyra was already moving forward.
He's still trying.
She whispered.
Even after death, his thread is still trying to fix what he broke.
That's why he's mad. That's why this place is dangerous. He can't stop, can't rest, can't accept that some things can't be fixed.
Lyra reached out, not to touch the thread, but to simply be present with it, to witness this 300-year-old tragedy still playing out in real time.
I'm sorry.
She told the thread, told Corvus's eternal echo.
I'm sorry you thought you had to carry this alone. I'm sorry no one could show you that perfection isn't the goal. I'm sorry.
The thread shuddered, and then, impossibly, it began to unknot. Kale sucked in a sharp breath.
What are you doing?
I don't know.
Lyra admitted.
I'm just acknowledging him, seeing him. Maybe that's all he needed?
The thread continued to unravel, releasing the knots it had held for 3 centuries. And as it did, the valley began to change. The screaming threads quieted, the impossible colors faded to normal hues. Reality reasserted itself, not perfectly, but naturally, growing over the wounds like a forest reclaiming a burned clearing. Corvus's thread, finally freed from its eternal task, simply drifted away, dissolved like morning mist, at peace. Kale stared at Lyra with an expression somewhere between awe and fear.
That shouldn't have been possible.
I didn't do anything. I just saw him. Really saw him.
That's what weavers do,
A new voice said, an old voice, cracked with age and amusement.
They see what others miss. And sometimes, being seen is all the healing a broken thread needs.
They both spun around. Standing at the edge of the valley, leaning on a gnarled walking stick, was the oldest man Lyra had ever seen. His beard was longer than he was tall. His robes were patched in 17 different places, and his thread was like looking at the sun, pure, radiant gold, so bright it almost hurt to perceive, and it connected to everything. Every thread in the valley, every thread in the mountain, every thread in the world. This was a weaver who had woven himself into reality itself.
Master Aemon,
Kale said, bowing slightly.
Kale, my boy, I see you kept her alive. Well done.
The old man's eyes, sharp and bright despite his age, fixed on Lyra.
And you, child, you healed Corvus's wound. Do you understand what you did?
No,
Lyra admitted.
I just felt sorry for him.
Compassion.
Aemon mused.
How wonderfully rare. Come, both of you. We have much to discuss, and the temple is still half a day's climb from here.
He turned and began walking up the mountain path with surprising speed for someone so ancient. Kale and Lyra exchanged glances, then hurried to follow. As they climbed, Lyra realized the silver path was fading. She no longer needed it to guide her. Something else was pulling her forward now. A recognition deep in her bones that she was finally going where she needed to be, going home to a place she'd never been. End of chapter 2.